Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of the premier inspirational digital magazine, Aspire Mag. It's hard to believe Aspire has been inspiring women to live their best life since 2006. I still pinch myself when I say that out loud. You know, when we think of detox, right, we usually think of a physical experience. But as my guest today is going to share, it's not just about our physical bodies that need to be cleansed of the impurities we encounter and absorb in our daily lives. It's our minds, too. We're going to be talking about that and so much more today with my special guest, Sherianna Boyle. Sherianna is the author of Emotional Detox, the 7-step formula for releasing toxicity and energizing joy, as well as 6 other books. She's an adjunct psychology professor, emotional detox educator, offering a variety of workshops, retreats, and courses on this topic. Sherianna works with clients from around the world using her cleanse method with her therapeutic coaching style. She's also the founder of Cleanse Yoga, which was featured in Yoga Journal. Welcome, Sherianna.
Thank you for having me.
I was so excited to see and learn more about the work that you're doing in the world. And when I saw the title of your book, Emotional Detox, I'm like, yes, because it makes sense to me just on an energetic level of we forget, right, that we're 3 parts, body, mind, and spirit. So for our listeners, let's start with what is an emotional detox?
So an emotional detox, well, first of all, I just want to be clear. It's not about getting rid of your emotions. It's about getting to them. So the part that we are detoxing is the reactivity, how we react to our emotions. And that is what I'm calling toxic in the book. So our emotions are actually very good for us, and I talk about it in terms of food, that if you were to eat a piece of food and digest it properly, then you would absorb all the nutrients from the food. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to our emotions. You actually have to digest them to receive the benefits that they have to offer. And so the emotional detox it's a process, and in the book I talk about a 7-step cleanse method, which is the acronym is CLEANSE, and every letter stands for the 7 steps. And now that the book's been out there and I've been teaching it for a while and doing workshops and retreats, I'm realizing that it's more than 7 steps. It's actually, it's a mindset, it's a foundation, and it's a lifestyle. It's similar to deciding that you're going to eat different and exercise more and just live your life a certain way. An emotional detox is a way to live your life, but first you have to change a lot of what we've been taught about our emotions, because most of us have been taught that we need to prevent them or fix them or change them or avoid them, or all these ways that we suppress and repress our emotions in our body, and then that builds up reactivity, and then as a result we experience symptoms and such as anxiety and physical ailments and things like that. So in a nutshell, it's a process of learning how to feel your feelings so you can fully digest them in the body, and it's also a mindset, a new way of viewing our emotions and what they're really about.
I love that you incorporate the mindset piece because you're right. So many of us, depending on family dynamics, were taught to suppress certain emotions. Some were good, some were bad. And so we grow up to be adults who aren't connected to our emotions or ashamed by them or suppress them or turn to substances to stuff them down. Is that why what you noticed in your work, and that's why you knew that there was that extra element, which was the mindset?
I have noticed that more and more. I'm also a psychology professor, and I teach a very basic general psychology class. But the great thing is I teach about all the old timers all the time. I talk about the ones who really pioneered the field of psychology and how we got to be where we are today. But as I've been teaching, I've been doing it for 9 years now, teaching all the different approaches about how we handle mental health. And I started realizing, there's really room for growth here. And there's room for other ways of seeing things. And that is when I started wondering about emotions. It was kind of just a curiosity about, well, wait a minute, we're talking about our feelings and we're talking about our thoughts and we're talking about our behaviors and our actions and all of that. But what happens when our emotions don't get digested in the body? Or what happens when we don't feel them? Do they just go away? And how do we know? And so it was really just me being curious and then exploring and doing the research on what exactly emotions are. And you're right. I mean, nobody is taught this information. And once I started to gather the information, the interesting part is I believe that a lot of what we've trained ourselves to do, and that is we train ourselves to label the emotion first. I mean, to identify it. Okay, well, tell me the emotion that you're feeling. Oh, I'm feeling sad. And I actually think that that's actually the last step that you do, that you don't begin with labeling. Because as soon as you start to label an emotion, you hold the frequency of it.
Yeah.
Right? So now...
True.
Right? So I thought, why are we doing that? And so I always say, my motto is, feel it first, and then if you still feel the desire to talk about it, so be it. But most of the time, after you feel your feelings, the conversation changes.
It's true. By labeling, it's just like in physical illness. Once you label it, it's almost like you step into the energy and draw it closer to you.
Yeah, you hold it.
So with emotions, it would be the same way. If I'm feeling angry and I say I'm feeling angry, and then I focus on anger, what's going to happen?
You hold the space for anger.
Yeah.
You contain it, which is a reaction, because reactions are about resistance.
And feeling into it is more the feminine, which is allowing it to pass through you instead of being stuck in the container.
Exactly. So we're still, I'm a former school psychologist. I did all the training in the curriculum, social, emotional development, and I have 3 daughters. One of them's still in elementary school. We're still teaching it that way. I'm still getting the little handouts sent home, and I'm like, oh, my God, I was teaching this stuff like 20 years ago, And
like, look at the little face and identify, are you sad or happy or mad?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember those.
Yeah, they've incorporated a little bit of yoga, a little bit of breathing. It's definitely more expanded upon, but I really believe that we're teaching people actually how to react.
Yeah, which is not a fun place to live your life from. I lived it for the first 30 years of my life. I'm 57 now. From a place of reaction, there's no happiness there. There's no joy because you're always going to be getting triggered from not only your own feelings, but things outside yourself that don't align with what you believe they should be.
Exactly. And the thing is we don't teach about triggers either. We don't understand, And so we go into more reactivity. We want to go through our brains and understand, well, why is this happening? And then we come up with a story, and then before you know it, we're in higher levels of reactivity, which I always say once you get those high levels, it gets really challenging because you're so in it. You're so in it that you can't even see any differently. So I always say if we could just tone it down in a couple of notches so that you're not in such high levels, then at least you can start to see what your options are.
So true, and it's so much more empowering to know that there's a method like the cleanse method and working with the mindset. I think it's more empowering to know that I have an option other than reacting. And that's what changed my life, is knowing there is another way, because we're almost like programmed from a young age, right, that this is how we deal with our emotions in this family. So, of course, that's all we know. And everyone's story is different. But a moment ago you said when you go into the story or into the energies of that emotion, let's say it's a negative emotion, perceived negative, we know they're not negative.
Yeah.
The story we tell ourselves, that's when we escalate the feeling. So if it's a lower vibration feeling, it's the best way I can think of to describe it.
Yeah.
We're keeping ourselves there because we're in the story instead of saying, hey, I'm the author of my script. I don't have to choose this.
Exactly. Yeah, so I call that following a trigger. So we get triggered, which is something inside of us that's coming. So in the emotional detox mindset, you have two choices. And it's either you heal what's coming up, which is in your favor, of course, or you revisit, and I call that re-traumatize. And that's a lot of what's happening when people are attempting to figure out how to deal with what's inside of them, is they're actually re-traumatizing themselves when they tell themselves this story. Because now your emotions, now your body has to go back to that original pattern. And that's where the re-traumatizing is. So although the story might sound a little different because you're an adult, it's still the same energetic pattern.
Yeah, and it sounds as if the cleanse method helps us almost like reset, reboot. My favorite word for myself is recalibrate. I got to recalibrate.
Yeah.
Recalibrate. And that's what it feels like. And we're going to go to our first break, but when we come back, I'd love you to tell us what the cleanse acronym stands for, to help everyone understand it a little more. And I'll be back in a moment with Sherianna Boyle. You can learn more about the Emotional Detox books as well as all her other books at SheriannaBoyle.com. We'll be back in a moment.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
We can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. Don't you agree? Counselor, best-selling author, and self-nurturing expert Kelly Grimes of CultivatingPeaceAndJoy.com is passionate about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted women to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing. Through her experience working with individuals, speaking, providing workshops, and teaching professional and leadership development to forward-thinking organizations, Kelly knows that nurturing peace in the world begins from the inside out. That's why she created the free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app that brings you beautiful self-nurturing reminders, guided meditations, empowering practice tools, and daily prompts with an inspiring question to guide your daily self-nurturing practice. Download your free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app today at cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Today, I am with Sherianna Boyle, and we're talking about emotional detox, right? And really looking within and shifting how we view and label our emotions. And right before the break, Sherianna, I had asked, what does the CLEANSE method, the acronym, stand for?
Yeah, so the first step in the cleanse is exactly what we're talking about, is clearing reactivity. So that's what I found when I did all the research on emotions, is that your body goes into re-traumatizing, right? So we go to the pattern. So the first step is we have to train our body how not to be in a state of reactivity. And so we offer tools and steps for that under that C. And then the second step is L, which is called looking inward. And that is where you get to have a conversation with the subconscious mind, because we know a lot of these patterns exist on a subconscious level. So the looking inward is a process where you say a statement out loud, and then you begin to invoke the breath. And by doing so, you get to cross the barriers from the conscious to the subconscious, and I teach people what that looks like. And then the third step, I think you mentioned it earlier, but I wrote a book on mantras before I wrote Emotional Detox. Actually, my feeling about Emotional Detox is all of the books I wrote before, all 6 of them, what I didn't know at the time were in preparation, preparing me to write Emotional Detox, right?
It's always the way.
It's always the way, but I do believe, I've landed in what feels right at this point, and so it's really about this mindset that I'm teaching. But so anyway, I knew, because I had written a book and done all the research on mantras, there was no doubt in my mind that a mantra would be a part of this formula, because I know that mantras can not just go across all the barriers as far as our subconscious and conscious mind, but I know that mantras have the ability to really get into the DNA. So now we're talking family lines. Now we're rewriting the past and we're rewriting the future. So the step 3 is E, which is called emit, which means emit sound. And so within there I talk about the power of mantra and specifically what I would recommend. The A in the formula is called activize. And so once you go through the first 3 steps, the activize is really learning how to hone your attention onto what it is that you're choosing to create, which is a skill. It requires discipline, because I find a lot of people, they have so much potential. They feel things. They have so many wonderful ideas and insight, but they're kind of careless with what they focus on. And you need a little bit of discipline with that. And so the A is really about learning how to discipline yourself in a way where you're not just aiming for all over the place. It's kind of like a hose, just hitting everything and kind of honing in. And so I teach about that. The N in the formula is called nourishment. And in the nourishment phase, it's about really learning how to foster your relationships. So that is where it's important to learn how to communicate, because I find a lot of people, they're really, can be spiritual people or religious people or whatever, but then when it comes to their own relationships, I've met a lot of people where that is just not working for them. There's a lot of discord or imbalances, and my feeling is you really haven't felt success until you feel it, until you're within your own family, and you can have these healthy dialogues together, and you can support one another. So that nourishing phase is about really learning and gaining the skills that so many of us did not get. I know I did not get. I watched my parents fight all the time.
We can all relate.
Right. I watched them rip each other apart and very dishonorable behavior a lot of times, and loved my parents, but I didn't get it, and they didn't get it either. So that is where you get it in that nourishing step. The S in the formula is about surrender, and I talk about all different things there, but there's a statement there as well, amongst other skills that are important to have. One of that is learning how to forgive. That's another thing we don't teach. People don't know how to forgive. They know how to hold on to something. They know how to revisit something, but they don't know how to forgive, truly forgive. And then the E step is really learning. That's when you learn, okay, well, how do I live this in my daily life? What is my life going to look like now if I'm feeling my feelings? How am I going to handle the day-to-day? How can I create, so it's just more of that, and that's another statement in that step. So all in all, once you learn the steps, I just asked one of my clients the other day who's doing so amazing. I've had clients with multiple diagnoses, multiple ailments, haven't been feeling well, and now doing the cleanse method, feeling so much better and empowered. And I asked her the other day, this one in my mind now, and she's like, it takes me 6 minutes to go through the 7 steps.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. I was just going to ask, is this a process that you do all at once, or is this something where someone comes into their work with you and maybe they want to work on A, or do they need to start at C, work down, and is this a daily practice?
It is a daily practice. With that said, they can come in and work with me. I do all of the steps with them and show them how to use it. They might just be feeling like they're having a hard time getting it, and so I give some coaching on that. But once they have it, they can do them all on their own. So what I tell people is, for a mom, for example, with small children who might start at C and then get interrupted, right? And then she gets pulled away, or father gets pulled away. I say, not a big deal. Not a big deal. Just go back to it when you can. So don't be afraid to allow space in between each steps. I also know that step 1, clearing reactivity, for example, if you have, let's say you have a guest staying at your house and everything is kind of out of order and you're out of your routine and you're feeling a little bit on edge or whatever, I just say stay in C for the week. Don't try to go into all of the other steps. Just really get to know the first step. And I've done that myself. I've had moments where I'm I just want to today I just want to play with step 3. And get to know it. It just feels right for me. But I do the steps every single morning, and I do encourage people to, because what we're doing is we're changing the brain.
Yeah, so you're rewiring the little path that has always been there that was given us the life and the behaviors that we didn't want. It's like a reprogram.
It's a reprogram, and you really do need to do it. It has to be consistent. And again, that's some of my school psych roots and working with people with learning disabilities and things like that. It's the same thing. It's when you have these rooted, these habits, and they do extend across generations. It's fascinating to me to see a pattern of reactivity, a way that somebody, I always say we don't clear emotions, we clear the coping mechanisms. And I know that's very different. People are used to being, coping mechanism. And I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that, of this idea of teaching people how to cope. I'm a fan of teaching people how to clear. Because
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a big difference energetically in the quality of life between the two.
Yes. I'm not saying I don't cope. I do believe that there are times when you're going to cope because you're in a situation where that's the best decision. But coping was never meant to be a long-term solution.
And we fall into it, though. We fall into it because of the pattern that we were raised in.
Okay, well, when you're stressed, walk away, take a walk. Okay, that's a coping strategy, taking a walk. But guess what? At some point, you're going to have to feel what came up.
Because if not, those triggers are going to keep re-traumatizing you over and over again.
Exactly, and then there's disconnection. So, take your 10-minute walk, but then go and cleanse because something just came up for you to be healed. And once you heal that, once you feel those feelings, whatever they are, it doesn't even matter. I always say there is no bad feeling. There's no bad feeling. And that's the whole mindset retraining. There's no good, bad, better, worse, this, that. None of it. They're all good. And once you start learning to cleanse, you stop getting so attached to the labels because they really do get in the way. And they're hurtful. They're so hurtful. I mean, I don't know how you feel when someone says, "Are you angry? Are you angry?"
You automatically get even angrier because they asked it.
It's like, really? Yeah, I don't really find them to be helpful, unless I say it and then they maybe validate how I feel, maybe a little bit there, but in general, it feels very judgmental.
It does, and then, as you said, it's setting the space to hold the container. And one of the things you said a moment ago about reactivity and triggers, the biggest thing I've learned about myself on that topic is the reactivity is really never about the other person. It's about an unhealed part of myself that's getting triggered. Because a lot of people will say, "You triggered me." Oh, no, darling, they didn't trigger you. That's within you that it needs to be healed. You should thank them for bringing it up so you can heal it.
Exactly.
Well, that's the point I'm in my life to go, "Oh, thank you. Where before I'd be like, "Son of a so-and-so triggered me." That's what I'd said in my younger years, right? Now I look at it as a blessing, like, whoa, where did that just come from? What happened here? What is the unhealed part of myself that is feeling that? Is that what you found also?
Absolutely, not just feeling that, but the universe is letting you know that you're ready to heal it, and that's the blessing. I mean, how exciting that the universe brought the situation in front of you and revealed it so the perfect set of circumstances so that you could bring up the memory. So a lot of the triggers are based on memory. And just because you might not have it in your conscious mind doesn't mean it's not in the subconscious memory. So true. So these circumstances show up in front of you because the universe, you're loved that much, and it takes that situation, as shitty as it may be, as horrible. And in Emotional Detox, I talk about. I don't want to get too much into the book, but it is a journey where I researched the emotions. I was very, very interested. I just came off. I was high as a kite because I just came off writing Mantras Made Easy, and I'm always like, I really invest in whatever I write about. So I was doing like 3 mantras are meant to do like 180-day practice. So it's a huge commitment. And so I had like 3 different things going. I was reciting, I was praying. I mean, I was full force, high as a kite. And I'm like, I'm high as a kite. I'm really interested in emotions. So I I start researching, and then about 6 weeks later, I got hit with one of the most traumatic emotional circumstances I've ever had in my entire life. And it was like a screeching slam. And at that point, on top of it, I had been writing, I'd written 6 other books. This book, Emotional Detox, got picked up by Simon & Schuster. So I was like, oh my God, I'd written a proposal, it got accepted. I was really feeling very good and elevated. And so when I crashed, it crashed hard, because now I'm hit with these sudden set of circumstances. And I just was like, there's no way in heck I can write a book right now. No way. So I had to go back to Simon & Schuster and say, look, I can barely get out of my bed, let alone write a book right now. Like I have to focus on the basics, and that is, can I make dinner for my kids tonight and hold it together? That's where I went to, that place. So they were great, and I had to take time. So I literally, everything shifted. And what I thought was going to be the plan changed, because now I'm not just writing, but I'm actually creating something. And so I do feel that this was, all divinely orchestrated, and I feel
I believe. Yeah, that came up for you because it was something that needed to be healed. The way it was delivered wasn't nice, right? That's how we can look at it. The package sometimes isn't pretty, right? No. But the gift inside, once we get on the other side, is worth it. And when we come back from our break, Sherianna, we can dive deeper into that. And I also want to talk about, how can emotional detox help with anxiety? Because I know that's a topic of all your other books, and so many people are struggling with anxiety right now. So let's talk about that when we come back from our break. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. We'll be back in a moment.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ladies, your story has the power to transform lives. 4-time best-selling boutique publishing company, Inspired Living Publishing, is dedicated to sharing women's stories of hope, love, and transformation with the intention to inspire and empower their readers to believe in the power of possibility. Share your story in an upcoming print or Kindle project. Visit inspiredlivingpublishing.com today.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Sherianna Boyle, the author of Emotional Detox. So, Sherianna, right before the break, you were sharing an intimate story about how, a healing moment was brought to you. And we were saying that sometimes it's delivered in a way that can bring us to our knees. But within that, now that you're through it, do you see the gifts that came, the part of healing that came?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's been so many blessings as a result. And I believe I had asked the universe, I had been monitoring a lot of what it was, and it just not knowing that that's the way it was going to be delivered. But I really wanted things to change. And, as far as my relationship with my husband, as far as my marriage, I felt like I was in a position where I was, how much longer am I going to be able to do this kind of thing? And it was not good. Who wants to be in a relationship like that, where you're thinking, okay,
let me out.
I gotta, yeah. So it talks about, what that journey was like, but many, many extraordinary benefits have come, and really the lessons just keep coming, and that's how I know the formula was from the divine and not from my brain just thinking up something, because I keep learning. And now I'm writing Emotional Detox for anxiety, which won't be out till next January. But when I went back to Simon Schuster and I said, there's more, and they were like, really? Really? I mean, Emotional Detox is great, and you've got so much in there. And I said, but there's more. Like, there's a whole nother book on this. And they really pushed back at, and said, I don't know. So I ended up writing more than half a book. And it just came, and I submitted it, and they were like, oh my gosh. And that is, it's so deep and so rich, and that it's just this infinite wisdom that comes through when you begin to feel your feelings. When you begin to truly allow yourself to feel your emotions, you get such insight and wisdom and clarity and calmness and confidence that you can't get any other, in my view, any other way. And I've been researching. I've written, I think 3 of my books are on anxiety, and some for parents, for kids. I've written one for adults, and nothing has really helped as much in my world and from helping people as the emotional detox method. And so when it comes to anxiety, you asked, I believe that anxiety is an emotion looking to be processed but can't.
Ooh, say that again.
Yeah, this is so anxiety is an emotion looking to be processed but can't, and because we won't let it.
So then it's being stored in our body, because I used to suffer with anxiety, so I just can describe it how I felt. It just feels like it's a buildup in your body, and that energy has to go. Now that I know about energy and everything I know now, if the energy has to go somewhere, and when it can't get out, like you said, because we're not expressing our truth, right, and our emotions, it manifests. And I also believe the next level after anxiety is physical illness. And that's from my own personal journey, right, many years ago, that we cannot ignore our emotions, that it will just manifest as disease in our body. So I think there's layers here. So this has to be exciting for you to say, okay, with the cleanse method as well as the mindset, there's tools that those who struggle with anxiety can use.
Yeah, there absolutely, there's tools, and there's healing. That's the biggest part. So it's not just tools of managing, it's tools for healing. And as you know, just one person's healing has such a trickle effect and can impact many, many people around you. And I believe that, right now, if you look at the world and the way it is and the way we're learning a lot about reactivity, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. and at some point, I believe the pendulum will shift, and we will realize how toxic these quick reactions were, the judgments, the way we, talk about or talk to each other, treat each other, and the judgments and all of that stuff. I say put your eyes on the quiet ones, because those are the powerhouses, the ones that are able to stay in their bodies, as you talk about, and feel their feelings. Those are the most powerful people on the planet right now.
Those are the ones we want to lead.
Those are the ones, exactly. And so let's give them some attention. Let's stop putting giving so much attention to reactivity and feeding it and absorbing it and getting all swept up in it. It's just so unhealthy for everybody. Everybody faces the consequences. So what's exciting for me is I feel like if I can just keep at it, keep on, that giving people a new way to see things, a new way to handle their emotions, even if they just look at the mindset and they start to have a new perception, that will be great. Even if they don't necessarily adopt the cleanse, but they start to perk up to the idea that your emotions are healthy. I mean, they're one of the best parts of you. They are such a resource.
And we have the power to be able to tap in at any time, and we have the power to choose, right? I think and I can't speak for everyone, I'll just speak from my personal truth. I believe that my emotions growing up, probably till my 30s, were separate from me. That's the best way I can describe it in the mind that I had then. And that I was at their mercy, right? Because I didn't have the wisdom and the knowledge to say, wait a minute, no, they are a part of me. But they're not in charge of me.
They are you.
Yes. But do you see how we segment ourselves, though?
Exactly.
We segment ourselves and go, oh, this one's over here, and then suddenly you wake up at 30 and you're disconnected from yourself because you segmented every emotion into containers. Exactly,
and that's what that last step is all about, the E in the formula. The E's is about oneness. It's learning how to experience the oneness, that there is no separation, that your emotions are you, and when you try to get rid of them or stop them or prevent them, you're preventing you. You're stopping yourself.
Yeah, the essence of who we are.
Exactly.
I just love how this goes full circle. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump on our last break, and then when we come back, I'm going to talk about the benefits of doing an emotional detox. So we talked about what it is, and we've lightly touched on some of the benefits, but I want to dive deep into that so they understand how they may feel after they start this work. And I'll be back in a moment with Sherianna Boyle of SheriannaBoyle.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Deborah Keevan is a writer, editor, and storyteller who serves visionary entrepreneurs by helping them create and share their compelling client attraction stories. In some cases, these stories appear as copy on their websites, other times in their blogs or books. As an associate editor at Inspired Living Publishing and with her personal clients, Debbie creates a safe space for entrepreneurs to fully explore and own their stories. By integrating their dark and light, they shine brighter to make a bigger impact globally and in their communities. Deborah is particularly drawn to stories of struggle and uses language to aid in healing journeys, including her own. If you have a story burning to be told, you're invited to visit her website and schedule a virtual coffee date at deborahkeevan.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, The advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and today we're talking about purging the reactivity, the drama, the bad habits from your life so you can live a life free from all of that and at your highest and best self. So, Sherianna, we've talked so much about what cleanse is, how it's a daily practice. What are some of the benefits of doing an emotional detox? What are some of the things you've heard from clients that their life started to shift in different areas?
Well, the benefits are endless, but one of the biggest benefits is that you gain energy, which means you increase the vibration in your body because you're no longer resisting the emotion. It's the resistance that actually causes you to lose energy. So it's like trying to hold a wall up, and then you get exhausted over time, and you lose energy over it, and then as you lose energy, you feel depleted. You get disconnected from yourself and from others. You get symptoms of also, health symptoms and physical and emotional symptoms. But the benefits, as you gain energy, so as you feel your feelings, you increase your vibration. Your vibration is the language of your emotions. So as your emotions increase and your vibration increases, you become your emotions. You become this expression, and one of the things that I hear most, and in people is, one is that they stop taking things so personally. That is a sign of reactivity. If you take things so personally, if you get easily offended, if you feel like everybody's mad at you or doesn't like you, or these are just some very practical ways that I see a difference in clients, that they stop running away from, or they might slow down a little bit. They might actually be able to have a conversation that's a little bit challenging, or maybe there's just they are okay with tension, and as far as other people, so they're able to have relationships. That's the greatest benefit, is increase in the quality. And let's face it, I mean, you can have everything, right? You can have money, you can have a big house, you can have a car, you can have everything. But if your relationships aren't healthy, you really don't have everything, right? I mean, you really
true.
feel, right? So, I mean, that's the biggest benefit that I've seen is I've worked with a lot of people who are feeling disconnected in their relationships, and that gets better for them, even if it's a parent-child relationship. Maybe a child is experiencing anxiety, and I will often, honestly, I work with the parents, and I teach them this method, and I teach them about reactivity, because a lot of what's happening that's a whole other area in the parenting world is we're reacting. We're not feeling anything. We're just reacting. Oh, you're upset. Okay, we got to do this. Oh, the teacher said this, we got to do that. Oh, you feel that, and it's just react, and it's you see children being numbed. You see a child, like what comes so natural, meaning making a noise, or maybe they're raising their voice a little bit, which you and I know energetically might be exactly what they need. They might need to go outside and let that voice bellow so they can move in emotion naturally, which is what we do as children, and we're shoving a tablet in their hand and quieting their system, so that they don't they don't disrupt anybody. That's a reaction on a parent's part, and it's not bad. Believe me, I've made plenty of parenting mistakes.
Oh, we all have.
But I've learned a lot, and so it was like you said, it's always about our own triggers. Something is coming up in us to be healed, and just so happens our children will bring that out in us more than anybody because we love them and they're so close to us and they matter. But so those are some of the, really it's been the relationships and feeling confident, being able to speak up, being able to be clear, and also people getting prosperity from this. So that's a whole other thing, meaning their careers get better, the way they handle themselves. When they go to work, they don't get as drained anymore. They know they have a plan for how to deal with these jobs that formerly felt like was taking the life out of them, like nurses and teachers and people in social work. I get a lot of therapists, believe it or not.
Yeah, I can see why, though, because they have wounds they still have to heal, because they're taking on so much in every conversation, which two things could trigger them, right?
Yeah.
But also they're always getting everyone else's energy put on them, so they have to learn processes to be able to work with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of the things you said earlier about relationships, I've always believed that women are the nurturers of the next generation, right? And as we heal, our family heals. It isn't about trying to change a child, trying to change a husband or spouse or partner. It's about let me do the work so I can bring my highest and best self to this relationship. And what I found, my daughter's now 35, I'm now a grandmother, and what I found is she was 6 and I was a single mom, and I'm like, well, I'm not making the smartest moves here, and I stepped on the path, right? And I realized that as I changed, every other relationship over the last, 20-something years shifted with it, right? So as I elevated my healing, my vibration, etc., everything rippled out. And now I look back and say, wait a minute. I used to think so-and-so had to change, whether it's, family member, doesn't matter who. Oh, I'm waiting for so-and-so to change, and then things will shift. I look back now, Sherianna, and go, oh, shoot. It was never that person that had to change. It was me, because here I am, have this amazing relationship, and when I'm honest with myself, nothing changed. Nothing with that person. They're still living the life as they always did. Mm-hmm. And I used to think it was the way that those decisions that was triggering me. No, it was myself that was causing the triggers.
Yeah.
And that was so insightful.
And then the way you coped with them. And that's a big part of it. So the change in ourselves is really looking at, okay, I'm experiencing this, and how am I coping with that? How am I resisting what I'm feeling? What am I thinking in my head? What am I doing? How do I react? And being willing to loosen up the grip on some of those coping mechanisms. And you find that they are threaded, and they go way back into childhood, and when we didn't know any better, and we were just looking to cope with whatever situations that we were handed. The challenge is we did an awful lot of learning how to give our energy away.
Yeah.
Right? So we never really learned how to feel, which replenishes your energy. So when you feel, that's another benefit, is that's how you gain energy. Thinking and doing is how you lose energy. And so when we're children, we do a lot of guessing and assuming based on the limited amount of information that we have. And a lot of times it's like, okay, well, maybe if I do this, then they won't be mad. Or maybe if I do that, then, whatever. And so we get really good at reactivity.
And that is such an important element of this entire conversation today, and why I wanted you on the show is to show that it doesn't have to be this way. And as our time together comes to a close, I want to give you a URL again. Sherianna. It's SheriannaBoyle.com. And Emotional Detox is right on a homepage. Be sure that you grab a copy and check out her shop where all her other books are. And I'm going to tell you, you got Mantras Made Easy coming up, Choosing Love, Childhood Anxiety, the Everything Parent's Guide to Overcoming Childhood Anxiety, and the list goes on. So please visit Sherianna. Tap into the wisdom, resources, and tools that are waiting for you there. Sherianna, I just want to thank you. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for being willing to do the work in the world and showing up so beautifully in the work that you're doing to touch other people's lives.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your space, your beautiful space that you've created. I so appreciate it.
You're welcome. And everyone, I'll see you next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on OMTimes Radio. And until the next show, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness, my friends.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.